has never been a more important time to move in a vegan direction. Whether you're ready to start, restart, or re-energize your vegan or plant-based practice, this podcast is for you. I'm Michele Olander, life coach, vegan, ADHD matriarch, travel lover, and smoothie loather. And I know that it's the details that get in the way of your vegan journey. But I like to believe that the obstacle is always the way. So every week we meet here where I translate the tools of life coaching and Stoic philosophy. I bring you actionable tips, some laughs, interesting guests, and vegan ideas for everyone at any age. All to help you veg your best. Episode 275, Cut, Char, Season. Chef Ed Harris on making vegan food unforgettable. Hey kids, it's Michele. It's December 9th, I think, when this comes out, and welcome back. Welcome back to Veg Your Best. Are we packing a lot in here before the end of 2025? Well, today I have such a holiday treat for you. I have a guest, Chef Ed Harris, Food Network's Chopped champion, award-winning plant-based chef, global culinary explorer, entrepreneur, consultant and now the leader of a new online community, The Rich Life, that he and his wife created on the school.com platform. Chef Ed Harris is one of those rare voices who brings together things I don't know much about, like technique, technique in the kitchen, but also culture, compassion, and curiosity in a way that makes you want to go straight into your kitchen right now and start chopping vegetables with a sharp knife and more confidence, I think, once you listen to Chef Ed Harris. Did you know it matters how you cut those fruits and veggies? Chef Ed's going to talk about that. And if you've ever felt like your vegan food might be a little bland or a little boring, or you're not just really a proficient cook yet, or that cooking plant-forward meals for your family feels overwhelming, Chef Ed's going to change a lot of that for you today, I think. His story about going plant-based as a professional chef after, well, you'll hear about it, a family event is powerful, surprising, and really relatable. And we're going to talk about how he suggests we layer flavor in our food like a pro, why the way you cut your vegetables totally changes their mouthfeel and taste, what made his family move in a vegan direction, what he learned from competing on Chopped and other food competitions, and why the world is absolutely ready for a new kind of vegan cooking show. Amen. I would love to champion that. Chef Ed has cooked in kitchens from New York to Japan to Dubai. He brings all of that global flavor knowledge into helping families and communities make, plant-forward eating more joyful and accessible and incredibly delicious. So I think you're going to like this conversation. Very practical, lots of fun. I promise you're going to walk away inspired to do something new in your kitchen today. So let's get into it. Chef Ed Harris, welcome to Veg Your Best.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm great. Chef Ed Harris and I are speaking today on Zoom. It is almost Thanksgiving. So
Yes.
When this comes out, it will be almost Christmas. But we're in the middle of it, and I hope Chef Ed is going to have some wisdom for us, all us plant-based cooks, or all us plant aspirational cooks and eaters and guests. That I hope you're going to have a lot of wisdom for us and a lot of inspiration for the new year. Chef
I would
Ed.
like to think so. I would like to think so.
Yeah, I'm sure of it. Well, I learned about you recently because your team reached out to me, and then I started looking at your YouTubes and started looking at your content and looking into you, and so exciting. And you've had a wealth of experience. And just to maybe to do this chronologically, tell me a little bit of how you came to a plant-based vegan lifestyle.
Great question. Not I think, the way we came about this was originally I always wanted to understand vegetables more, right? And I just had this calling to just cook vegetables really well. So that I think was the beginning for me. And then growing up in the Caribbean, we do lots of vegetables, lots of fruits. So, that's part of our diet as well as everything else. But being home with the kids, we one day heard about a Netflix series documentary, What the Health. And, my wife, my three kids, we all sat down and watched this. This was, I think, 9 years ago, I believe. And after we watched it, the kids looked at us and it's like, so daddy, mommy, are we gonna keep eating meat? After we saw what was going on. And, my wife and I looked at each other and like, what are we gonna do? And we said, let's go for it. Let's see what's going to happen. We watched a few other documentaries and it just kind of put us in this mental state where we just didn't like what was being done with food. And then, that led us into the emotional side of the animals. And, I just saw from a parent perspective, when the animals get separated from the moms, that was just in a way it was just kind of tough. And me being a classically trained chef, it just kind of shocked me because, you know, being a chef, you're taught to do meat, and that was my life prior to that. And I would not have thought in a million years that I would be vegan. I was like, vegan, what's that? No, not me. And now you can't convince me to do anything else. So watching those different documentaries, Seaspiracy, Cowspiracy, What the Health, and then just looking at the industry today and just how the meat is being treated and just what they're doing to produce this kind of food, I'm just like, it's not for me. So that's how we ended up where we are today. And I love every minute of it because it just gave me an opportunity to create food in a different light and to just really maximize natural grown food, food that is just more healthier for you in terms of the way it's being processed, right? And not having to deal with a lot of chemicals or antibiotics and these kind of things. So that's, I think, what got us to the place we are today.
I think, how many people have found those documentaries instrumental
Yeah.
in making a shift in behavior, a shift in, even if it's
Hmm.
just leaning into it, just it really
Exactly.
it caught a lot of us, got a lot of attention. I think I wonder if this is the reason why we're having this, more people seem open to it over the
Mhm.
last 20 years, because
Yeah.
that's when these, TV.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think one of the things too is, when you're born into this world, you just kind of just go with the flow in terms of, this is what my parents gave me, this is what my grandparents gave them, and you just follow that and you don't really question anything. And I think by not questioning is where a lot of people end up just being lost, right? And you just kind of follow the motion of what everybody else is doing. So, back to, the re-educating, right, of what it is to be vegan, what it is to eat in a way that just helps you, helps the environment, just helps everybody all around.
Yeah. It's just such a wealth. And I always say that I didn't become vegan until my 50s. So once I became vegan, I realized how much else do I not see? What else am I looking, sideways, or have I just decided is normal, and maybe it isn't?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you have so much experience. Now you're chefing. Your
Yeah.
your professional career began before your
Yes.
vegan journey.
Way before. Professionally, I've been cooking for over 20 years. And, for me, graduating high school, going straight into culinary school, a chef was just it. I wanted every part of it. And it was really interesting because it allowed me to work in some amazing restaurants in New York City. I got to travel to Japan, China, Thailand, Africa, Dubai, you name it. And for me, being able to go to these different places where the culture is so massive and so immersed, you just get to really learn about cuisine and food. And as a chef, I don't think there's anything better than being able to go to a different country and experience that culture, authentically, right? So that's a big part of my journey, I would say, is just being a sponge when it comes to culture and food, because I'm always taking notes. I'm always adding to my repertoire of things that I can do based on I'm always eager to learn, and I mean, just couple what I'd say maybe 2 years ago, I just learned something completely new about just how to manipulate gluten. And I was like, man, because now I'm making my own sausages, I'm making my own plant roast, I'm making my own meat substitutes, but it's made with everything that I can pronounce, everything that I can buy in the store. You know what I mean? So being able to do that was just mind-boggling to me because, I'd say 10 years ago, I would have never thought of even looking in that direction to create something like that, and now it's such a big thing. I mean, there are companies that make millions of dollars off of this one idea of creating a plant substitute, a meat substitute. So I just think being able to learn about food every day is just really fun for me. And I think that's why I love what I do because I'm also learning as I teach.
It is so. We have a friend who always says nothing's wasted. When young
Mhm.
people, you think you're in the wrong direction here, and you think maybe that's not my career, and oh, that's not where I want to live. Just
Yeah.
remember, nothing's wasted. We
Yeah.
can, unless you decide it's wasted, but
Exactly.
we can funnel all that, even the missteps, even the not so goods. We can funnel towards something amazing. And it sounds like you just had a fantastically creative career even going into this. And this is why you are such a not boring vegan chef. Because we were talking about that a lot of people have been scarred by
Yes.
what they thought was what vegan food tasted like along the way.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that vegan food has this rap of either being bland or not having flavor. And for me, I'm super big on spice. I'm super big on seasoning because spices, like if you think about it, anyone that's cooking meat, what are you using to flavor the meat? You're using herbs and spices, like you're using the things, so to be able to still translate that into vegetables is something that I feel is a missed opportunity because you can season cauliflower, you can season broccoli, you can season beans, and make them very hearty, make them very meaty, and even a technique of charring your broccoli or your cauliflower just adds a level of flavor that people don't realize, right? And you can char in so many different ways, right? Even if you're being super healthy and you don't want to use oil, you can still char in an oven under the broiler. You can just char in a dry saute pan. So, and still really create flavor. And for me, I think one of the reasons a lot of chefs miss, or just people in general cooking vegan food, is that they think that you can't layer flavor because it's vegetables, but it's the complete opposite. You can. You just have to think about what you're cooking. And I think for me, that's why my food really sings, and it's because I try to understand what I'm cooking and then I think about how many ways I can impart flavor into this particular item before it's finished. So whether that's, charring in the beginning, adding liquid smoke if I want more smoky flavor, adding things like smoked paprika, for more depth, adding lots of bay leaves. When I tell people about bay leaves, it's like they look at me and like, really? Because for me, bay leaves is one of those things that they give so much flavor to food, especially vegan food, right? And it gives you that kind of earthy umami mouth, just really deep flavor. And people will just put like two bay leaves in their food. And if you're buying bay leaves from the supermarket, consider it 50% less potent as it should be,
Mhm.
right? So you have to double, triple the amount you're using. But for me, like I'll go to the Caribbean, I'll go to St. Lucia and I'll get fresh bay leaves and I'll ship it home and dry them. So it's like you just need two, and the flavor just lingers. But if you can't do that, obviously, then you need to just double, triple on the bay leaves that you're using. But adding that to your chilies, to your broths, even to rice, is just allows you to just build flavor. And, once people realize how to build flavor, I think they will give vegan food even more of a chance.
Well, you're speaking to my husband. He loves bay leaves. He buys
Awesome.
he orders them from some, I can't remember. I don't know what purveyor it is because he won't buy the
Okay.
supermarket ones. But
Yep.
and then he puts
Yep.
like, and I grew up with one bay leaf in a soup, and
Yeah.
we used
Yeah.
it, but he
Yeah.
puts them in. So bay
Yes.
leaves, double down on the bay leaves is one of your
Yes.
recommendations. You mentioned
Yeah.
smoked paprika. I love
Yeah.
smoked paprika. That really
Me too.
does fill in a little bit of that stuff we
Yes.
expect to have in certain foods.
Yes.
I
Hmm.
like black salt in a lot of things because that
Yes.
gives that kind of I don't know. When I describe it, people go, "Why would you want that?" But it's actually marvelous.
Yes, it really is. And you know the things you have to know how to use it. It's like the calamanak, right? That salt that gives off that sulfuric aroma, right? So, making anything eggy, you'll add a little bit of that. But if you add too much, it then just overpowers it and it's not enjoyable. You know what I mean? So, it's back to understanding the ingredients
Mm.
and just sparingly adding things in, right? Especially when you're experimenting. Don't just go 100% in, because you're testing the waters, right? So adding a little bit initially and then tasting it and then adjusting and adding more, I think will make people a lot more successful in terms of cooking, right?
Yeah, and remember that you made messes of food when you weren't vegan. You
Oh yeah.
you
Oh
had
yeah.
bad meals back then too.
Easily. Easily. So there's no difference. There's no difference.
That's it. You can't blame it on veganism.
No.
Okay. So let's know a little bit more about one of the things I know about you is you were, so everybody loves to watch competitive chefing and baking
Yes.
and things. So tell me a little bit. You had an experience like that. Tell me a little bit about
Yes,
that.
I had a few. So let's go with the first one. So I was on Chopped, right, on Food Network, and I won. This was 2010, right? And it was intense. I have to be honest with you. We got there at maybe 6 in the morning, and I didn't leave until about 12 that night for that 1 hour of TV, which
Wow.
is insane. Exactly. People don't, well, there's no way for them to know, right? But and that time frame was because I won. So I went all the way through. But if you get chopped, you'll leave at where, obviously you'll leave after that. But there's still the interview process. There's still, them asking you questions about the competition, and then you having to talk in the past tense, but it's in the present because they're asking you what just happened, but you're talking like if it's happening now. So that was pretty tricky. So then the deliberation also that takes a lot of time because the judges have to now figure out who they want to chop. So it's not as quick as it looks on TV. Sometimes it takes them 2, 3 hours to decide, and then you're running around and your jacket is super heavy. There's lights on you that are hot. The ovens are at 550. There's boiling water. And then your nerves, there's a lot going on in the kitchen. So you really, really have to be on your A game, and you just have to be really focused to do that show, to do it successfully, I would say, right? Because you can go on there and do it, and whatever happens, happens. But to really go through it, you really have to pay attention to what you're doing. Yeah.
What gave you the idea to do that?
Huh. So this was when I was working in Budokan in New York City. So one of Food Network's offices was upstairs. This was an old Nabisco factory building, right? Where Budokan is located. So a lot of the producers would walk around Chelsea Market, which is on the main floor, right? And Chelsea Market is this amazing market where you can buy all kinds of foods from different purveyors, different restaurants. There's a lobster place there. There's a seafood place, all kinds of different purveyors, right? And there's MLB upstairs. So there's a lot going on. It's a busy, busy building. So one of the producers actually saw my executive chef at the time, which was Lon Semenzma, amazing guy, and asked him if he had anyone that wanted to be on Chopped. And at the time, everybody wanted to be on Chopped because this was 2010. It was the coolest show ever. And so my chef went and told him that he knows someone because we were really close. So he's like, "Yeah, I have a person for you. I'll send them your way." So I went and I auditioned, and they're like, "Yeah, we would love for you to come back." and that's how we got on Chopped.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I've
Yeah.
been to Chelsea
Thank
Market
you.
a couple of times, and it is never less than absolutely packed when I go
Yes.
there. Like it's
Yeah.
claustrophobically packed.
It's pretty intense. It's
I
pretty
think there's
intense.
is Miznon there, one of the Miznon
Yes.
um,
Yes.
outposts there. So that is
Yeah.
amazing. And so, what changed after you won?
Huh. So, after I won, I will say I got a lot of people restaurant to, to meet me and just to say hi and take pictures. But social media wasn't really big then. So I didn't have, there was no Instagram or anything like that. I mean, I had Facebook, but I didn't really promote it the way we think about social media now,
Mm.
so it was very interesting, but I would be at the train station waiting for the train and someone would just walk up to me, hey, you weren't Chopped, right? I was like, so that happened for a while, so that was pretty funny. And it allowed me to get some really cool gigs. I was able to go on Beat Bobby Flay as well. Because of that, I was able to do Iron Chef International. I won that as well. So it was pretty, it allowed me to get into some doors, let's put it that way.
That's great. So now, as a plant-based chef, this was
Yes,
before you became
yes,
plant-based.
all of them. Yes.
So, what kind of opportunities do you think are available in these kinds of competitions for plant-based folks these days? Is there much, and is there some pushback about that?
So I think there is always a place for someone that's vegan to be in one of these shows. You just have to be able to, well, there's a few things because 9 out of 10 times you're going to have to cook some kind of meat item, right? So are you comfortable doing that? And then if you are, can you do it well, even though you're vegan, right? So for me, if I'm ever put in that situation, it'll be a little different because I come from that background originally. So I understand that kind of food. But if someone hasn't done that ever, because there are vegans that just have never done meat, right? That might be a little different, but I do think that Food Network and the cooking channel is missing a vegan version of these type of shows, and I think it would really be amazing. But at the same time, it's a lot of people say they want to do vegan, and a lot of people ask for certain things, but then the follow-up is very lacking, I find sometimes. Like I've spoken to a lot of different event space owners that do different pop-ups, different events. And one of them told me, he was like, people ask me to do vegan events, but then when I put it together, I get 3 signups.
Mm.
But meanwhile, 20, 30 people are asking for the event. So I think it goes back to that scarring of maybe the food's not going to be good, and then they kind of withdraw from it. So having some shows that can really show people what new plant-based food looks like, I think is something that will be really beneficial to our community, and maybe one day we can be on that show talking to people that, we came up with this idea, of having a show on a major network, that's more plant-based,
Yeah,
because it's missing.
I agree. I look forward to that time. And I think one of the things that makes you particularly valuable as a vegan plant-based consultant chef is that
Yeah.
you do understand the world of omni,
Yes.
cooking, of a
Yeah.
wide variety of cultural approaches to cooking. New York, one of the most how many
Yeah.
how many how many
Yeah.
cuisines are in New York, and now you're in
Basically
Atlanta,
everywhere.
but Atlanta's the
Yeah.
same, right?
Yeah.
Huge melting pot of tastes
Correct.
and flavors. So one of those things. So as a consultant chef, now you are helping other people,
Hmm.
kind of traditional restaurants, businesses, hotels, be
Yes.
a little bit more show more leadership in that area, in the plant based area.
Correct. So right now, I'm currently working with a few people in Atlanta where we're working on how do we better the menu, how do we create more flavors, how do we get more people to understand what it is that we're doing. And every client's different. I've gotten clients where they just needed more systems around being more plant-based, or needing to update a menu, right? The offerings are might be dated. How do we modernize what plant-based could be. So it really just depends. With one of the hotels I worked with, it was to, come up with a falafel that's really amazing, because there's so many versions of falafels. And I find, you know, and this again, I think comes back to understanding ingredients, right? Because if you make falafels with canned garbanzo beans, the texture is very mealy, right? It's not really the best. And then if you do it with the flour, it's very cakey, very doughy. But if you soak dry garbanzo beans and you make it from that, it's the best case scenario, right? So, it's changing people's idea of, yes, it might be cheaper to go this route, but you end up with a better product if you go this route. And then you can buy dry garbanzo beans in bulk. So I think, being able to consult with different clients, it really allows me to just showcase the knowledge that I have based on ingredients, because for me, that's where I tend to do a lot of my studying, right? How do I do ingredients in a way that just maximizes what that ingredient could possibly be?
Yeah, and you understand that vegan food on the menu does not have to just be for the vegan that rolls in or gets dragged in.
Exactly.
It could be for
Exactly.
everybody. Could
Everyone.
love it. And my ears perked up when you said when the menu offerings are a little bit dated. I,
Yeah.
it was so great when cauliflower started showing up, cauliflower
Yeah.
steaks. That was great. And now I'm like, okay, guys.
Yeah. What else? Yeah.
Does
Yeah,
everybody
exactly.
that's it's kind of it feels kind of cynical after a
Yeah.
while. And
Yep.
also sometimes you feel like the chef has never tasted that meal on the menu.
Correct. Correct. I feel you, and the thing is, even with, you have restaurants where you have chefs and they've never done vegan food ever, right? But I feel they get into a box where it's like, I only know how to cook meat, but you cook vegetables all the time. You just have to omit butter. You just have to, leave out the duck fat, replace it with olive oil. So it's just rewiring your brain to swap out a few ingredients. And literally that's it. But treating it the same way. Like, you're still gonna caramelize your onions, you're still gonna roast your vegetables. Like, so there is not that much change or difference. I just think, you know, people hear vegan food and like, ah, whatever, it's this afterthought, whereas in someone that really cares about vegetables, and there's, you know, omni chefs like that too, right? They're chefs that do meat, but they also love to do vegetables really well. So, you're always going to find this mixed basket of, people at different restaurants. And, it's telling of the restaurant, right? Like, you're not going to go to a steakhouse and demand plant-based food. And you know what I mean? They're cooking everything with butter. They're cooking, potatoes have cream, So I think also it's knowing where to go eat, and really thinking about the menu, looking at the menu before you go, because you can tell based on the offerings of the menu where the chef's head is at. You know what I mean?
I totally think so. I totally think so. And sometimes you get that deer in the headlights look
Hmm.
from the server who is
Yes.
like, I do not want to go back there and talk to chef.
100%. There's some chefs like that. They make the servers feel really bad. But I get it. I mean, even when I go out, there are places I go. I was in Texas not too long ago, and I went to the server to ask, so what do you have on the menu that's vegan? And she said, well, we have yogurt. And you know what I mean? This is
I do.
this is a hospitality. This is a server. Like, she should know that the yogurt's not vegan. But that now goes back to the manager. That goes back to who's running the restaurant. Like, if your servers aren't aware of dietary, and this is a major dietary situation, so it's not like, pescatarian or, you know, all the others.
For
You
sure.
know what I mean?
It's not just a choice, an ethical choice.
Yeah.
It's also some people cannot have dairy. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. So to not know that yogurt is not
an
vegan,
animal. Right.
that just shows you the level of re-educating that needs to be done on like a massive level, a national level, if anything. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I do think it's a little bit better over the last 10 years, but I do think
Yes.
it's still surprising how gluten free, which is so different from vegan, It seems to be
Yes.
on the same synapse, the same like the same the
Mhm.
same neurological spot in the brain for some people.
Yes.
And yeah,
It gets put
sometimes
together.
I've been offered gluten-free rolls, and I go, "Oh, is that because the gluten-free rolls are vegan?" And then there's like, oh, what?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for whatever reason, it's one and the same.
Yeah.
Gluten-free and vegan. Like there's no difference.
Yeah, so
You
that's
know?
why charismatic, experienced people who can
Yeah.
speak omni language like
Yes.
yourself are so valuable, I think, when you walk into a hotel. Now, I have to say, personally, I understand restaurants, every restaurant is different, but when a hotel doesn't get it, I get really kind of impatient
Mhm.
because to
Yeah.
me, they're supposed to be taking care of who knows who's showing up with who knows what kinds of
Yes.
has certain needs or allergies or
100%.
issues, and they're supposed to be like there's a different level of I think of knowledge that they should be expected to have.
100%. I mean, at the end of the day, you're paying for hospitality, right? And that's their business. Like that's their number one business. So you're providing a space where people are coming and they're like, this is a place I can pretty much ask for whatever I need because that's just the business, right? It's a hotel, you have food, you have access to basically every vegetable. So I should be able to get sauteed spinach with garlic, olive oil, salt and pepper, right? You have mushrooms. Like, so to be able to go to a restaurant in a hotel and be told, oh, we can't do this, we don't have this, it's like, really? You
Mm.
know what I mean? So I feel the same way
Yeah, it's
about being in
disappointing.
hotels.
And when a
Yeah.
hotel is responsive, it just
Yeah.
like to me, it's just like you've got me for life. I love you.
A
my
hundred percent.
my husband still talks about a hotel, the Marion. I should give them a in Dublin, which he says is the best vegan breakfast he's ever had in his entire life. And so it's just like, and it's there. You don't have to beg somebody for it or ask
Mm,
someone to go work with the chef. It's right there on the menu. It's welcoming, and it's just like,
I love that.
ah.
I love that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
So
love that.
I know one of the things you, with all your knowledge, you have so much content out there, but you have created something on the school platform, right? Is that
Yes.
SKOOL?
Yes, correct.
So tell us about that because I think that's a way people who are listening today can get to know some of your work and see how they could apply some of your genius to their lives.
Awesome, awesome. Yes, so we started, and when I say we, my wife and I, so we're called the chef and the wig maker because she makes wigs
Oh.
and I chef. But we created this community called the Rich Life because we wanted to provide access to a rich life and which has nothing to do with money, because being rich is having family, it's having a community, it's being able to make really delicious food that you can share with people. So we wanted to be able to create this community where we can just put all of this information, meet every week or every month, and just, go back and forth, answer questions, help anyone on their journey about being more plant-based, talk about our travels to India, to Asia, to China, to wherever it is that we go and what we're learning about food and spices. For me, I'm always in the markets when I travel. So being able to just share that information and share that culture with people and then come back home and create these dishes, right? And show people how to do that is why we created this school community. So I'm just really excited about it because it allows people to get in there, get access to information, resources, learn how to make really cool things, and learn at your own pace, right? And just have a backing of other people, like-minded people that are on a similar journey and are just sharing their stories. It's great when you can read someone else's story and just, touch on that because it brings you to a place where, well, this is what I'm going through and mine is similar to yours. Let me share mine. And then that just creates this really amazing group of people that, I'm excited to build.
That's beautiful because part of a vegan or plant-based lifestyle in this world is
Mhm.
not always having the neighbor, the friend, the grandmother who can
Yes.
help you solve those issues. Like if it's eggs or chicken,
Yeah.
we probably have somebody really, really close, an arm's length away that can like
Yeah.
walk us through it. But this is beautiful, and there are so many more. Like how do we cook for people who are not on board, but we
Yes,
still want to
yes.
we want to seduce them with our
We want
dinner.
them to try. 100%. Yeah, it's funny you say that because people will try the food if and this goes back to visually appealing food, right? If you really want someone to try your food, you have to make sure it looks pretty, right? You have to make sure it looks appetizing, appealing, right? Because when you can visually create something stunning, you automatically break down this initial barrier of, well, I don't know if that's going to be good. Because if it looks like it's going to taste good, they're more willing to try it. So I'm super big on making food look good, and that goes to the way you cut your vegetables, right? The way you cut certain things, because a lot of people don't realize it, but by cutting your vegetables and your fruit a certain way, it changes the way it tastes.
Mm.
And I don't know if people realize that, but you should really try it. Like if you bite into an apple or a persimmon, it's a different mouthfeel, it's a different taste than if you slice pieces of it and then take bites of it. So, homework for anyone listening to try, slice a few pieces of the same fruit and then just bite a piece of it off of the actual fruit itself. It's a completely different experience.
That's great. That's funny you say that because one of my go-to snacks so that I get some protein and I don't eat a bunch of junk is an apple with peanut butter. And
Nice.
I if I one day in a rush, I just kind of like smeared some peanut butter on top of an apple because I was like
Yeah.
walking and doing seven things at once.
Yes.
Completely different than when I make my
Mhm.
little slices of apples.
Yep.
That's
It's
interesting. I thought that was just
yeah.
my imagination, really.
No, it really is a thing. It's like, and I'm talking any cuts, like your onions, your garlic. I mean, it doesn't matter what your vegetables, the way you cut your broccoli, like everything translates into a flavor slash mouth experience when you're eating. So it's a thing. And the sharper your knife, the better.
So that's the kind of wisdom we can find in the Rich
Yes.
Life community on the school platform. How do people actually find that or get to know you and then find that? What's the best way for our listeners to follow you?
So on all social media, it's Chef Ed Harris, and the link to my school is in my Instagram bio. Right? And if you were even to just go on school and type in the chef and the wig maker, you would find us because we're the only chef and the wig maker on the platform.
Go figure.
Yeah.
Chef and the Wig Maker on school
Yes.
platform, and that's skool.com.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
.com.
skool.com. That
Yep.
is, Chef Ed, that was so marvelous. I want people to now go straight to your Instagram, your websites, your YouTubes. I was telling you when I first, when I was first getting ready to talk to you, I got
Uh-huh.
sucked into that uh, YouTube where
Yes.
you are helping people if they want to launch a spice brand. So,
Correct.
with all your wealth of information, because you've developed, what did you say, 50 or 60 different
Yes.
products?
Close to 60 different products, from beauty products to food products, pancake and waffle mixes, seasonings, you name it. Yeah.
That's amazing. So there's a lot of wisdom. You need to tap into Chef Ed Harris's
Thank
brain
you.
here. If you've got any, even if you're just a hobby chef and you'd like to kind of
Mhm.
visualize this life for yourself, I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
Thank
And I
you.
was like, people need to know this sort of thing because and also a spice brand sounds like something that is achievable. If
It really is. It really is. And the thing is, it's there are so many vendors and purveyors that you can work with, right? But what ends up happening when you're new to launching a product or any business that is launching a product, you end up finding the vendors that are charging you for 5,000 MOQs. The minimum is 20,000, it's 10,000. So any everyday person is going to look at that and say, well, I guess I can never have a spice line. I can never start, a brand of sauces. But I was able to, because I've done it for so long and tried so many times, that I was able to find vendors where you can have your own seasoning line with a minimum of 12 pieces per SKU. So you could launch three different seasonings and, it's 36 pieces total. So
wow.
that's doable. You know what I mean? Versus 5,000 versus 10,000. You know what I mean? So I think that's why I'm so excited about that, is because I know it's tangible. I know you can actually get it done, from getting a website up and running to getting fulfillment. So literally, I help people from inception to getting it into a fulfillment center so they don't even have to ship themselves. Like literally, you just have to worry about going online and saying, "Hey, buy my spices." That's it. Everything else gets handled on the back end through systems that I get to set up for them. So, I just love being able to do that for people. Yeah.
I think that's amazing, and I feel like there's somebody listening today to this episode who's going, I need to do that.
Yes.
That is very, very cool. Chef Ed Harris, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to send
My pleasure.
everybody over to your school platform and share all your links on social media. And remember school.com. It's the chef and the wig maker. You can't miss that. You can
Yes, definitely. Thank you so
thank,
much,
thank you
Michelle.
so much. Thank you for being here on a busy Thanksgiving week. And I
All
hope
right.
you have a wonderful holiday season, Chef Ed.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
So, so, what did you think about Chef Ed Harris? Is he not just great? What I love most about this interview, I think, is how accessible he makes plant-based cooking feel, in spite of the fact that he is hugely trained. He's tremendously experienced, and he makes you feel like, yeah, I guess I could do that. And you don't need fancy ingredients. You don't need perfect skills. You don't need a complicated plan. I think Chef Ed really reminds us we just need some curiosity and some willingness. And if Chef Ed has his way, a good sharp knife and a few more bay leaves than you or I are probably using right now. My husband, I think, feels vindicated by this tip. I also love Chef Ed's reminder that most of us grew up eating what our parents ate and their parents before them. So when we ask new questions and when we try new approaches, we're not just changing a dinner. We are changing generational assumptions of what's normal. And we can do that with joy and excitement and also with patience for ourselves when it feels a little tough. So, if you want to learn more from Chef Ed, and I'm pretty sure you do, you can find him on social media with his at Chef Ed Harris tag. And you can find the link to his online community, The Rich Life, at school.com. That's SKOOL.com. It's a platform for communities. And he and his wife have created that and building a incredible community centered around culture and travel and spices and making plant forward food really joyful. So if you loved this episode, I hope you loved it. I hope you loved parts of it. Please share it with someone who needs a little inspiration or a little encouragement in the kitchen, or someone who thinks vegan food is just not bold and flavorful and fun, because we're here to prove otherwise. And as always, thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing the podcast and for rating the show and for being part of this Veg Your Best community. I am so thankful for you all this holiday season. You really are the reason these conversations matter. So until next time, start where you are, use what you have, make something delicious today. Don't wait. Don't wait another day to veg your best. Veg Your Best podcast production, music, and editing by Charlie Weinshank. Thanks, Charlie. Before you go, it would mean so much to me and the Veg Your Best team if you would hit subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, or share with someone you think might be interested. Something about algorithms, it helps bump us up a little in the rankings, and that's the best way to help others find the podcast and for us to find our audience. So, until next week, make it easy and veg your best.